you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers Pregame presented by Bet365. My name is Bill Matz, and I'm back, baby, and I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me live in the Xfinity mobile studio, it is Philly's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor. What's going on today, Chuck?
Hey, it's good to be back on air. We obviously haven't had a show in quite a while since Festivus Eve, which bled into Christmas Eve morning. But now we are back because the Flyers are back for their first game in a little under a week against the Seattle Kraken. William.
It is. I am excited. I was sick for a little bit. The Christmas break really helped with just our schedule and not having to miss too many shows. But you and Steve certainly held it down for me while I was out. Very much appreciated. And now we are back ready to go. And it's the Disney on Ice road trip as we love every year, Charlie. But I got to talk about real quick before we get started what happens when the Flyers come home. Because when the Flyers come home, well, they're going to be playing the Ducks on January 6th, and I bet you're going to want to be there. Ducks having a pretty good season. Maybe there's a little bit of a rivalry there. Well, guess what? You can go and you can go with us. Go to allphly.com/events and get your tickets for the second annual Flyers Suite Takeover. We did this last year for the Ducks game. It's one of the best Flyers games I have been to in years. It was a playoff-like atmosphere. I expect it to be similar this season. You're going to want to join us. Go to allphly.com. And if you're a diehard, make sure you are signed in because diehard, well, it's one of the benefits. You get a little discount on the experience. Make sure you get your tickets to the Flyers Ducks January 6th at allphly.com/events. All right, Charlie, but it is the Kraken the Flyers are taking on tonight. And as we await to see what's going on in warmups and everything, I very much assume we are going to get what we got in practice and what we've seen lately from the lineup. Jackie Spiegel tweeted the practice lines yesterday. But I want to talk to you about a couple things because it's been a little while. Denver Barkey, huh? He looks pretty good. He looks like he kind of belongs, and he's playing with Coots and Tippett right now. Rick Tocchet spoke today about how he thinks Barkey has been a really good addition to Tippett's line. A predictable player. Tippett needs guys who he kind of knows what they're going to do, so he doesn't have an issue, reacting to them quickly. And it's worked so far with Barkey. That first game against the Rangers, he has the 2 assists. He left the last game early. We're going to have injury updates soon, but spoiler alert, looks like he's doing all right. What have you seen out of Denver Barkey thus far, Chuck?
Yeah, Barkey's been really impressive. It was really a bummer when he got injured at the end of the second period in that final game before the break. Missed the entire third period. Luckily, it seems like he's avoided major injury. It appears he's going to be back in the lineup for tonight's game. I've really liked what I've seen from Denver Barkey. The energy has been palpable when he's on the ice. He really brings it. He's just a hardworking player with some skill. Look, he's not an elite skater, but he's clearly an above average skater. Like he is, we've talked about how much Bobby Brink has improved his skating.
Yeah.
I think Barkey is still quicker than this version of Brink, but he's certainly way quicker than what Brink was when he came into the league. So
absolutely, yeah.
That's a darn good place to start, given the fact that like Brink got better in his early 20s at skating and Barkey is still only 20. So that's really good. One thing I did chuckle about with that when you were reading off that comment, like Rick Tocchet really just like can't. He's doing nothing to disabuse people of the notion that he actually dislikes Matvei Michkov because like he can't help himself. I mean, like, well, the Tippett, he's a predictable guy. Like, oh, so you're basically saying that like, yeah, now that he's away from Michkov, he's better because Michkov isn't predictable. Like, he's really not doing himself any favors here.
I mean, like, yes, that's exactly what I heard when I heard that. And I think anybody, like a reasonable person would be like, yeah, that's what he's talking about. And we've seen those two play together. And there's been a lot of times where, Michkov does Michkov stuff. And that's just not at all what Owen Tippett was expecting. And we've talked about Tippett's ability to, like, kind of adapt on the fly. He's a very skilled player, but maybe not like the best at reading a situation all the time. And to me, it was just kind of not a shot at Michkov, just like these types of players don't gel. Like having them together as much as we have the last year and a half, probably not the best idea. And like, I don't know if it's a shot at really either of them. It's just kind of like, but absolutely, that's 100% what he was saying, right?
I mean, that look, the reality is, I think a lot of us have not loved the Michkov Tippett
Yeah.
pairing from the jump. A lot of us don't think it makes sense. I think my issue with framing it that way
Okay.
is it pins the blame on Michkov. Whereas my view is like, look, like, yes, Michkov at times freelances, and I'm sure that does make him tough to play with if you're a certain type of player. But by the same token, like, don't let that lead you to believe that Owen Tippett is a predictable player. Like,
No,
he does crazy dumb stuff all the time too.
no, but that's kind of like, that's the way I chose to interpret it, was like, you have two guys who are both jazz musicians, but totally different styles, like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, this guy, they just don't mesh. And I think it's as much a shot at like Tippett's IQ as it is like Mishkov's unpredictability, or the way he
Improvisation.
doesn't fit, the way he doesn't fit into a system, or however you want to frame it, like negatively. I'm not saying you're doing that, but it is a way to interpret it. Like, to me, it's just like an oil and water situation. Like, well, we have this guy over here who kind of comes up with crazy stuff, and we have this guy over here who's not good at reacting to that. Maybe we don't put them together. But yes, that it did come off like, yeah, well, we got this guy, and he works better than Mishkov in this particular situation. But it was absolutely really, oh, okay, I'm back. Like, all right, we got the coach. He's saying stuff that could be interpreted as shots at Mishkov. I felt back today when I listened to that, Charlie. I felt like I hadn't missed a day. The other thing I wanted to discuss is finally this new look fourth line. And I guess, during the Rangers game, I tweeted, I guess I'm the problem. That was just my scheduled day off. I guess I'm the problem with the power play. And I suppose that extends to the fourth line as well. I miss a few shows, and apparently the fourth line is now good. It's not a shock that they've changed some players on the line, and that's kind of what has led to that.
Yeah, I think because I was still in Buffalo. I got stuck in Buffalo.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't come on the show on Saturday. I was still in Buffalo when this announcement came out that Garnet Hathaway and Nick Deslauriers, but Garnet Hathaway, the bigger name, was getting sat for Saturday's game. He obviously hasn't played since. And I noted that it was surprising to me. And of course, people jumped on me because I actually look, I see what everybody else sees with Garnet Hathaway. He hasn't been good this year. I just think it's a little unfair how people just literally want to fire him into the sun. Like, he was good for the previous 2 years. And the way I see people talking about on social media acts like he's total garbage. Like, look, he might be. Maybe he's just cooked.
Could be done. Yeah.
He could be done. But you're acting like this guy has stunk for years. He's stunk this year. And I'm surprised that they did eventually pull the trigger on pulling him out of the lineup, because I wasn't sure if they were going to do it or if they were just going to keep throwing him out there and hoping he'd get back to where he was. Look, it's the right move because the fourth line's been better. It bothers me a little bit. I feel like, and I get he's a fourth liner and he's not one of the kids, so people automatically hate a fourth liner who's not one of the kids. But I don't know. I think it was the right move to pull him out of the lineup. I just think it's unfair, some of the heat he takes from fans, as if treating him as if he's chopped liver. Yes, he's having a bad year and it's fine to sit him. And clearly it was the right move because the fourth line's gotten better. But this is his first bad year with the Flyers. He had been good the previous two. I still have hopes that maybe at some point down the road this season, he comes back in the lineup and refines his game. It just didn't seem like it was happening anytime soon. So yeah, pull him out, see what you have in Gurbankin and Grunstrom with Obels, and boom, suddenly the line's looking pretty good.
Yeah, that's the, I hate the idea, and it goes the other way. And people love the cross sport references, but the Eagles come out and beat up the Raiders, and it's well, see? It's this doesn't erase what I already saw, though. I already saw Hathaway was good in that role for 2 years. Now, maybe he's just in a slump. Maybe he's still feeling effects of that concussion last year. I have no idea. Maybe it's just this is what happens to a 34-year-old who plays the way that Garnet Hathaway plays, because, man, we've seen it. Wayne Simmons, who was a much higher in the lineup player, but, hard to play against that similar way. When it was over, there was no sign that it was coming. It was just oh yeah, and then he was a part-time player for the Leafs. We didn't really see that one coming. Maybe that's the way it is with Hathaway. That remains to be seen. But I do have time for a little bit of the, hey, that contract extension when you could have cashed in on a guy who, listen, if Scott Lawton goes for a 4th-round pick, guys like that go for a return of some sort every year at the deadline, especially previous seasons when teams were up against the cap. What can we afford? We can afford a decent 4th-liner, and that's what Garnet Hathaway is. He's been a trade deadline acquisition in the past. I do have a little bit of time for that argument because, yeah, maybe you needed to extend some foresight there. If that's Danny's biggest mistake, like I can probably look past it,
Yeah.
But it is like, okay, there's that element. But honestly, as long as the coach right now gets the lineup right, I don't really worry about too much else. Maybe it took a few games too long, but a guy like him is going to get the benefit of the doubt. I just see this as a positive. We finally, okay, hey, maybe there's something that works here with this 4th line.
Yeah, and look, Grundstrom in a lot of ways, I mentioned this, I think I mentioned this with Steve, that in a lot of ways, Grundstrom, he doesn't have the same agitating edge that Hathaway has, but in a lot of ways, he's a fairly similar player in terms of the actual hockey playing to Garnet Hathaway, what Garnet Hathaway was last year and the year before, prior to the concussion. So it makes sense to me that you put him sort of in Hathaway's place, and then boom, suddenly you have a more effective 4th line because Grundstrom has straight up been quite effective. Really, since he's joined the lineup a few weeks ago, he's been a very effective 3rd liner, 4th liner, just bottom sixer in general. I think the thing that I'm most intrigued by is Gurbenkin, because I was getting down on Gurbenkin, at least where his NHL readiness was this season. And he does look better now that he's not on a line that also contains Garnet Hathaway or Nick Deslauriers. But I was concerned about Gurbenkin when they gave him that look on the 3rd line, with actual players that can put the puck in the net, and he dramatically underwhelmed my expectations. And then they put Grundstrom in there, and immediately Grundstrom starts scoring goals. It's like, yikes. Like I thought higher Gurbenkin than this. Gurbenkin wasn't doing anything. And then boom, you throw this Grundstrom guy in who was literally a cap dump by the Sharks, and he's out playing him. But I like what I've seen from Gurbenkin since they've constituted this new look 4th line. And maybe it's just a chemistry thing. Maybe it's comfort. Maybe he was trying a little bit too hard because he got that bump up the lineup. I don't know. But I've liked more of what I've seen from Gurbenkin recently since they put this new one together.
Yeah, 100%. I was just thinking about Grundstrom. I realized, it's not the same as the Gostisbehere trade because, if you look at it, there's something on both sides. But that is technically something for nothing, right? They did technically trade him for nothing, and now he has 5 goals in 10 games. He's been pretty damn good. And this 4th line, the new look 4th line, I am digging it. All right, on the other side, we will be back in just a minute, talk about Dan Vladar, talk about some of the injury updates. But first, got to tell you about one of our new partners here at PHLY. Let me tell you about a local business that's been helping Philly homeowners and businesses stay pest-free. It's Evans Pest Control. And this isn't some giant national chain. They're a family-owned, community-focused pest control company right here in the Philly area, and they've been earning the trust of our neighborhoods for years. Evans Pest Control uses a state-of-the-art equipment, safe and effective treatment options, and their techs go through continuous training so they're equipped to handle anything. We're talking rodents, we're talking insects, termites, and even bed bugs. They offer priority services and consultations, which is huge when you have a problem with pests. Everyone in Philly knows pests don't knock, they just show up. Evans Pest Control is your solution. So if you see signs of pests or just want to prevent them before they start, reach out to Evans Pest Control. Visit evanspestmgmt.com to schedule your free consultation. That's Evans Pest Control at evanspestmgmt.com. You know that moment, the one where you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach or on the roof of your car or at the gas station 3 states away. We have all been there. I lose my sunglasses in the ocean nonstop, and that's why I love Shady Rays, because they have changed the game. Their sunglasses are made for real life. They're seriously good looking, they're polarized, they're durable, and they're not stupidly expensive. And the best part, if you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. There's no guilt trip, just replacements right away. So now I actually wear my favorite sunglasses, and I wear them without fear. I wear them to the beach, I wear them at concerts, I wear them on the boat, I wear them wherever, because Shady Rays, well, It's eyewear that seriously has your back. And we've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code PHLY for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Go Birds. All right, welcome back. And it is time to take a look at the actual lines for tonight, which will lead us to the injury update. Jackie Spiegel is in Seattle and just tweeted them out, and no changes. We are getting the forward lines we are used to, Charlie, as well as the defense, and it'll be Dan Vladar in net ahead of... did you see people taking exception to, and you're not going to be shocked by anyone taking exception to anything, they call Ayrton, I guess, Big E, and people don't like that.
Because of Lindros. Gotcha.
Yeah. It's like no one on the team was even alive when he was on the Flyers, guys. We can cut him a little break here. But it'll be Vladar in net tonight, York Sanheim, Andre Drysdale, and Sealer and Risto. And that brings us to the injury updates, Charlie, because we got a little word from Rick Tocchet and the organization today. Sanheim and Barkey both missed the end of the last game. They were pulled out, Sanheim by the spotter, and I guess Barkey had a headache, but guess what? They're both okay, and they're both in the lineup tonight.
Yeah, I was never that worried about Sanheim. Just watching that game in real time. Like, it was concerning when he was on the ice, but then he gets up and he's screaming and yelling at the guy who clipped him. It just seemed very much like the concussion spotter pulled him, and I guess he couldn't get cleared in quick enough time to come back. So it didn't shock me when he was out there. Barkey, I was concerned about, and Tocchet did note, he had a little headache.
Yeah.
That does concern me a little bit.
Yeah, right?
If he had a little headache, he probably had a concussion, and I just hope they're not rushing him back too soon after having kind of had a headache, as Tocchet said, but it's gone away. So he's pretty good. I would hope that the Flyers medical department is not keeping their standards just to the point of, he doesn't have the headache anymore, so he's good. I hope that they've gone a little bit more in depth, and I'm sure they have. I'm sure Rick Tocchet just sort of takes what they say, and he's like, okay, he had a headache because he's a former player, and that's probably the way he thinks. But Barkey was the one I was more worried about. It seems like he's okay. Seems like he's going to be in the lineup tonight. So just fingers crossed he doesn't get another hit. And one thing about that play, too, about Barkey was that I mentioned in postgame that while it was a penalty, it didn't strike me as a dirty hit. It looked like the guy kind of turned to take the hit at the worst possible time, and Barkey was just kind of playing a gritty physical game, which he has to play to survive with his size, and it just went bad. That said, I don't want him pulling back, but I also don't want to see him getting dogpiled like he did. And this isn't me yelling at the other players in the team. They jumped in to defend him. I just would rather him not be involved in situations like that, given the fact that he is 20 years old. And even though he might be NHL ready, I don't think he is fully physical developed. I'd rather him, maybe try to avoid scrums for the next couple games while he's working on this kind of a headache thing.
Maybe he was just hungover. Yeah, maybe the headache had nothing to do with it, and he was just not feeling his best, Charlie. Who's to say? That would be it is a little bit of a shock, and I'm sure we'll get an actual 4 p.m. show at some time to really go over some issues with the team. And we thought for sure, oh man, it's at least a year in the AHL because he's just so little. And no, he's up right away. Had 2 points in his debut. He's probably fine. It's just a little bit of a surprise. It would be nice to see him not get dogpiled, though. All right, Charlie. We got to talk a little bit about these Seattle Kraken because they started the year pretty decently. Did the Kraken? They were 11-5-5. I realize that's 11-10 if you're just looking at win-loss, but 11-5-5 is a pretty decent record. And then from November 26th till December 18th, they went 1-9-1. Just absolutely brutal stretch for them. And now they have bounced back. They just, before the break, had a 4-game road trip. They ended it with 3 straight wins over the Sharks, Ducks, and Kings. And they're looking a little better, but when I look at this team, I don't see any reason the Flyers don't come away with their 20th win of the season tonight. The leading scorer is Jordan Eberle, 23 points in 35 games. Jaden Schwartz has missed 12 games. He's got 15 points. He's up there in terms of points per game, but not a ton of firepower here. Kind of the same old story for Seattle. They're decent. But nothing to really write home about, I'd say.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit after the Festivus game, me and Steve, about how while we're still maybe not quite sure collectively, not just us, but the fans as a whole, of just how good the Flyers are. Because you look at their record and you think, wow, sixth best record in the league, best points percentage. They're a really good team. And I don't think anybody is quite there yet. But I thought that the two games leading into the break against Chicago and against Vancouver, that confirmed for any remaining doubters that the Flyers are not a bad team. Because
Yeah.
those two teams that we watch, that's what bad teams look like. And the Flyers are not that. They were way better than the Canucks. And then they had every single thing stacked against them against the Blackhawks from a schedule, travel, everything, guys being injured in the third period, terrible penalty calls in the third. And they still beat that team. Seattle is another team that on paper looks like an actually bad team. So the Flyers should, in my mind, find a way to come away with a win here. The one thing that does maybe concern me a little bit about this game, and maybe we can look at the bright side of it and say it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the Flyers to to shake off something that's been a problem all this year, and honestly for the last few years. The Flyers' power play is not good. Seattle's biggest weakness is that their penalty kill is terrible, and that's why they lose a lot of their games. They have the worst penalty kill in hockey at
70%.
70.3%, 32nd in the league. They lose a lot of their games because their penalty kill can't stop anything. The Flyers, I guess the bright side of this is, hey, it's a way to get their power play going. They come out of the break, maybe they can score 2 goals in the power play in a game, start feeling good going into the rest of this trip. The flip side of it, though, is that if the power play stinks, which it has most of this year, then you're taking away one of the big weaknesses of the Kraken from the Flyers' repertoire because you can't take advantage of it. So I'm a little concerned about that. Like, if the Flyers get a power play goal in the first period, I'm feeling real good about this game because I'm like, okay, the badness of the Flyers power play has been overshadowed by the awfulness of the Kraken penalty kill. Hopefully that's how it plays out for the Flyers.
Yeah, that would be, I've just looking at some of these numbers, like, all right, they don't score and they don't kill penalties. They're 31st in goals per game. They're 32nd in penalty kill. Surprisingly good power play. I guess they only score on the power play. They're over 21%. They're 11th in the league. But other than that, there's just not a lot to love about the Seattle Kraken. And I think the Flyers are road favorites tonight, which is not something you see a lot for this team, at least this iteration of it. And that brings us to tonight's pregame picks. It is time for our Bet365 pregame picks. Sign up for Bet365 and use code PHLY365 to deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. Must be 21 plus an NPA. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Only one bet tonight, Charlie. And we are going to bet on the first career goal for Denver Barkey. He breaks through tonight at plus 425. I was looking at a couple other things. I was thinking, the Flyers are favorites. Maybe I'll bet them. But just looking now at a Denver Barkey anytime goal, I think it's about time. He gets 2 helpers in his debut. He's, been involved in a big dog pile, as you said. He's at least gotten enough stuff out of the way. Time to get that first career goal tonight, I'd say.
Yeah, I actually guessed that Barkey was going to get his first NHL goal in the game against Chicago. I was proven wrong. William, I hope that your bet goes better than mine did last Tuesday, I believe, is when that game was. I think it was last Tuesday.
Absolutely. All right, so that is our one and only bet for the evening. Denver Barkey anytime goal. Place that bet for plus 425 at Bet365. A lot of similar numbers there. All right, we have a couple of super chats to get to before we wrap up pregame, so I'm going to get to those. Brenna tells me they're long ones, so let's see here. All right, from J.E. Frucione. Good to hear from you, J.E. Do you think the club will try to thin out their dearth of wingers and address other needs in season, or do these things must these things wait for the offseason and they'll just roster manage in the meantime? I just think it depends on what's available, and like the things they need are things that teams usually aren't looking to give up, and because there's only so few teams that are like out of it, I don't know who's willing to take like, oh yeah, he's like a good middle 6 NHL winger. Let us get one of your centers. Let us get one of your top 4 defensemen. Like, I just don't know how many teams in the league have those things and are willing to part with them at this point.
Yeah, my answer to this is, look, I'm sure Danny is looking at trades at all times, and
Sounds like
I'm not going to rule out the possibility that there is a trade that comes across his desk in January, in February, in March, even at the deadline, whatever, that involves him shipping out a winger for another piece. It wouldn't blow me away. However, and this is something that you really should keep in mind as fans, based on everything I've heard, and then also based on the conversation I had on the record with Briere in Montreal, he doesn't feel the same urgency that a lot of fans seem to feel about solving this winger problem immediately. He knows he's going to have to address it at some point. He knows that they have too many wingers for not enough spots, especially if you're accounting for, Porter Martone coming, for Alex Bump when he eventually gets healthy being on the way, for Barkey getting a spot. He knows it's a long-term problem, but he doesn't see it as something that needs to be done today. And I think he's right. It's just something that fans want to see done very quickly because they see it as a problem.
Yeah.
And they're going on Puckpedia every day, staring at the roster and being like, when are we going to solve this? Briere's thought process is, yes, I will have to solve this, but I don't have to do it now, especially because Tyson Forster's out for the year. So that opens up one spot in the here and now that he doesn't have to worry about.
I was going to say, and that's like, we've seen this before, and I know it's a different situation, but, he made the decision to trade Sean Walker. And you had to. There's no other, there weren't other options. That's what you had to do. Then the whole defense gets hurt. It happens before, during, and after that trade happening. It's now we're out a defenseman. The Forster situation allows it. So listen, we've already seen 2 call-ups. We've seen Grunstrom and Barkey come up. Grebenkin's playing every night as well at this point. I don't know if it needs to be solved immediately. Listen, I want it to be because trades are cool. Trades are fun. I like when stuff happens, and I want stuff. I want a center. I want another defense. I want things. But, I just don't know how realistic that is, and Danny and Jonesy have said all along, patience. It'll be done when it's done. We're not just going to do stuff because you think we should now based on your personal timeline.
That is true.
They keep saying that. Oh, they're going to rush this thing. They're going too slow. It's which one is it? Because they're just telling us they're doing things at the pace they feel appropriate. When the move is there to be made, I hope Danny makes it. Until then, we'll see. Do I think it's going to happen in season? I don't. I'd be surprised. All right. And the other super chat is from Hattrick Patrick. I want the Flyers to take a swing and draft that 7-foot, 285-pound Russian defenseman in 2026 and develop him into an unstoppable murder machine. Alexander Karmanov.
Sure.
Yeah, great, man. I'm still hoping Stepan Falkovsky really comes through. Maybe late career ad there. I think he was 6'7", and I fell in love with him. But 7 foot, 285 pounds. So this guy is it's Joel Embiid. That's what we're talking about. It's Joel Embiid playing hockey.
It's that's pretty crazy. I will say this, and I say this because we have people that watch this show on a daily basis who, I guess it's because this isn't their job. They're just fans, but they somehow know all the prospects already. I don't have the time. You could invent a name of a player and say it in the super chat. Should they draft this guy? And I'm going to be yeah, sure. Go for it, because I don't have the time to learn these guys while I'm also covering a hockey team. So if you want to throw super chats throwing out names of draft prospects in January and February, you can, but we're not going to be talking about them. I'm sorry.
I like that Patrick put this guy on my radar, because now I know there's a 7 foot, almost 300-pound Russian defenseman available, and I want him too. Don't know anything about his skill set. That seems too big, but no such thing, right? All right. All right. That is all the time we have for you. 7 foot, 285. I can't imagine there are skates that support a man that size. Anyway, that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers Pregame, presented by Bet365. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for hanging out. If you haven't already, follow us right here on YouTube. We'll be live on this page as soon as the game goes final with postgame. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers, and follow the podcast wherever you get those. My name is Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. Until postgame, let's go Flyers.